box, right?
Yes,
The
it's
great
kind of
big,
a taboo subject.
the population bomb discussion that we've been having for a long, long time. And I don't get too concerned about it, and I'll tell you why. It's because anytime you start talking about, oh, there's too many people, for me, from an ethical standpoint, I want to know who there are too many of. And I think very quickly it turns into a very taboo for a reason, because if you're going to sit there and say there are too many people, okay, who's going to volunteer? You know, are we going to have voluntary suicides? Are we going to target certain populations of people? Are we going to limit nutritional intake? Are we going to mandate birth control? It runs up into real significant ethical issues very, very quickly. Right now we are capable and exceed the nutritional amount of food necessary for everybody on the planet easily. These are systemic issues of distribution, of appropriateness, of localness, that it's not just that the population conversation makes me uneasy, it does, but that I don't have any way to really ethically approach it. But I think it's important.
Mark Bittman said at the Land Institute at the Prairie Festival in September that although 70% of the Earth's resources are devoted to industrial agriculture, that produces a quantity of food that only feeds 30% of the world. Meanwhile, 30% of the Earth's resources are going toward more traditional forms of agriculture practiced often indigenously, and that feeds 70% of the world. So, you know, we need to think about Malthus a little differently.
There's an ecologist in the UK, his name is Jules Pretty, who's done some really unbelievable ecological and agricultural work around the world. And he makes the argument that this is really both a bottom-up and a top-down solution, that we need to de-industrialize some of our largest farms and food production while helping that indigenous peasant up their production just a little bit more, so that we kind of have this expanding middle rather than a super large, big industrial and a rather large peasant traditional form of agriculture. So that's one way to think about it.
I'm sitting here wondering what the big ag corporations are plotting. For instance, my father, who was in the tire business in Great Bend, Kansas, was informed in the late 1960s, early 1970s, that these are the farmers you want to continue to do business with because they're going to be around to the turn of the century. And guess what? They were dead right. We used to have all kinds of dairy farms in Barton County, Kansas. There's one left. They were on the list.
Mm-hmm.
What are they plotting?
If I knew, we'd have an idea.
There is some virtue in seeing who is the enemy. And big ag and the big banks, I read the book, The Seven Bankers, and I do not believe in capital punishment. But after reading that, they would align those seven bankers up that almost brought the whole damn financial structure of the world to bottom out. I would have shot them personally. They were the culprits. And
Most
there
definitely.
are people in big ag that are truly the culprits.
And there are always going to be bad guys, right? There are always going to be people who want more for themselves. I am not going to contend that, and I'm not going to stand here and argue that big ag is going to be turned into a beneficent group of people willing to ensure that small and beginning farmers get a toehold. I'm not going to stand here and say that. That would be untrue. However, I think that again, it's important to fight those battles. But for me, it's more important that we try and create the world we want to live in rather than fighting against the one that other people think we have to live.
Well, Fairfax are right behind us, that 70%
And they are.
is provided by 30%.
Yep.
Big Ag is not winning, but they may still be trying to win.
So we're seeing cracks. I just saw a psychologist write an open letter to Monsanto and other companies like that they should embrace labeling, because by fighting it, they're encouraging people to be afraid of it. So there are going to be different tactics going forward, and I think that's what's exciting.
Well, I was saying about things that we take for granted, like breathing in and breathing out. If you're out there on a farm, where do you get your toothbrushes or your toothpaste?
Amazon.
That's the thing that we're accustomed
That's right.
to.
That's right.
But, and 100 years, 150 years ago, well, like some of my ancestors were farmers here.
Yeah. That's right. And thinking about food is thinking about our legal structures, how we set up community, how we set up our towns and cities. And, there's big discussions of, well, why should we let anybody live in Western Kansas? There's hardly anybody out there. Let's just shut their schools down. We'll make them move. And that's the logical thing to do. So there are lots of different conversations.
My mom is a master gardener, and about 4 years ago, it was January or February 2010, we went to a seminar held by the University of Missouri Extension Office that was to teach people how to farm on a small scale, who maybe would want to make a little extra income at farmers markets, etc. And the entire seminar, this was an all-day, 8-hour seminar, and the entire thing was all about GMO seeds, pesticides, chemical fertilizer. And we all kept asking about, natural methods, and they kept saying, we're not allowed to teach those to you because they're not scientifically proven. And we were shocked, and they did a little bit of hoop house demonstration, which was good, but my mom and I were really shocked and disappointed that we wasted an entire day at this thing. But I have a friend who went maybe last year and said that it is changing, and they're starting to teach the more natural methods now.
Yeah, they've aligned also with Cultivate KC and a few other groups. And so, again, we're seeing some
What
cracks.
was the tipping point, do you think, that made them switch?
Your mom?
I mean, numbers, you're seeing a lot of people ask. You're seeing a lot of people buy organic. Farmers markets have risen tremendously in the last few years. So, it's some of it's the market, some of it's that organics have been making money. There are a lot of different.
Were they funded to teach the other before? Is that why they would say we can't teach you natural?
That is a complicated discussion that I am only now really learning about, and my own ranting kind of level opinions, but probably not appropriate for this forum.
So I just wanted to make one comment, and then I have a question for you. In my own work with farmers, and I go to ag conferences pretty often, and it's encouraging to me that more and more of your typical big ag producers are looking at dropping out and being more in the direct marketing. They're fed up with the pesticides, they really high inputs, and they're looking for other ways too. So I think there's hope in that. But you've mentioned how we already have enough, but we're producing enough food. You've talked a lot about production. So the other problem there that is the elephant in the room is waste.
Yeah.
You have like 5 minutes. Can you talk
For
about
sure.
food waste a little bit?
Yeah, whether it's carrots that aren't straight enough, or not being allowed to sell your excess food that a supermarket has a contract with that they don't want, or what we do in our own kitchens, is a huge problem, which has really become to the forefront the last couple of years. Some friends of mine just published a book on food waste. that I'm excited to get my hands on. But there are these legal structures that prevent supermarkets from giving away their arbitrarily outdated food because it's seen as unhealthy, which is regulated by USDA, and supermarkets don't want to be seen as a charity. But these are things that are, we can change them. Legal structures are simply a matter of changing laws and mindsets, so it's not impossible.
Yeah, I thought that we already won that particular legal battle, that all those supermarkets and everybody are legally protected as long as they're giving it to a charity.
Okay.
To a charity. It
Okay.
used to be different, but I think rather recently,
Okay.
that was very
Great.
specifically protected,
Yeah.
and they still won't do it.
Yeah.
At, I think it was CVS,
Okay.
or Walgreens, one of those, where I talked to the person whose job is destroying the perishable food before the day that it expires.
Yeah.
2 or 3 days before.
And destroying
because they don't
it-
want it on the shelf with that date that's so near.
And destroying it before it even goes into their dump because they don't want dumpster divers and
Right, they
freegans
actually
coming to grab it.
have to destroy it first.
Yeah.
And the person can't take it home themselves, they
Right.
can't give it to anybody,
Yeah.
just because of corporate policy, even though the law specifically protects them if they do give it away.
Yeah. Even though Walmart in Ohio was just found to have a food gathering bin for their own employees for the holidays. So there's some interesting competing logics at work, and but there's also some exciting things going on. So thank you.
I mean, I maybe I'm a bit jaded. I think a big part of why they do that
It's
is
easy
to keep
to
the
be
market
cynical.
strong. You don't want to give away food when you're trying to sell food.
It's easy to be cynical, that's for sure. So trying not to be. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much. As I say, I've been on the ferry ride. My brother lives in Norway, kind of right across from the little town called Tunsberg. We hop on the ferry, go to Stromstad, Sweden.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
for that